Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Apologies for the small delay. We're working through some technology, getting everything teed up on live real quick. And I think we're ready. All right. If you guys are ready, we will get this meeting underway. So we'll have a roll call real quick. Mr. Ingram. Commissioner Tucker. Yeah, we're having some issues with the mic. Okay, I'm not seeing the gallery view.
And you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, she's muted.
We see you, Ann. We've got you accounted for.
I'm having trouble, guys. There
No
we go.
worries. There we go. All right, Commissioner Fincher.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Gaynor.
Present.
Commissioner Jones.
Present.
Hello. Commissioner King.
Present.
Commissioner Townsend.
Present.
And Mr. Webb is here. Commissioner Webb.
Present.
And Commissioner Williams. Oh, that's right. Was Arthur here? I can't see him on there. No. Okay. So we've got a quorum. We're good. All right. First agenda item. Let's review the minutes from last month. Any questions, comments, or addenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. I've got a motion from Rebecca and a second from Larry. All those in favor, approve these minutes.
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. All right, moving into our agenda this evening, we have one subdivision item. This is a request for preliminary plat approval of Oak Grove Plan Unit Development. Mr. Levi Hill.
Yes. Item 1A is a request for preliminary approval of a 20-lot subdivision located at 1150 Museum Road and 1 through 3 Oak Grove Drive. As you may remember, this property was recently rezoned to PUD at last month's meeting to allow for the development of single-family and two-family lots. The requirements, or the proposed lots range from 8,700 square feet to 23,500 square feet, consistent with the lot requirements of the approved PUD. The subdivision will feature one access point from East Oak Street and a second access point from Museum Road. All proposed lots will be accessed by Oak Grove Drive, which is a private street proposed to be improved as a part of this development. A 5-foot sidewalk is proposed along the east side of the private drive, consistent with the requirements of the PUD. No waivers are included as a part of the request, and staff has recommended approval of the preliminary plat contingent on the amended punch list and the conditions as noted in the report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, the floor is open. This is not a public hearing item. Do you have any questions for Mr. Hill?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
I had a motion from Ann. I didn't hear who the second was from.
Second for Brian.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approval for this preliminary plat, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Very good. Motion passes unanimously. Now moving into our second item this evening, we have an appeal review, which is new for a lot of us. This review of development review appeal for Hervey Insurance Agency.
Yes. Item 2A is an appeal to the Planning Commission for the proposed development at 3200 Prince Street. To provide some context, the applicant submitted a site development plan proposing to reuse of an existing 1,947 square foot single-family residence to now function as an insurance office. As a part of the request, the applicant is proposing a new parking area located in the existing front yard of the property. Staff provided comments noting that the proposed location of the parking lot conflicted with the city's commercial development standards. The specific concerns are described in detail in the staff report, but I'll touch on them right now as well. The primary issue pertains to the standards outlined in Section 1101 of the zoning code, which specifically states that parking areas located in the front setback or between the principal structure and any public street is strongly discouraged. To build on that point, this particular stretch of Prince Street has a prevailing residential development pattern along the north side of the street. The construction of a parking lot in this prominent corner location will likely have a significant impact on the existing residential character of the neighborhood. Additionally, a future roundabout is planned at this intersection. Construction of the parking area as proposed will likely interfere with the sidewalk placement at the intersection at the time of construction and will not allow sufficient space for the development to meet the city's landscape requirements as well. It's staff's opinion that adequate space exists to the rear of the structure to provide parking in accordance with the development requirements as illustrated in the report. Staff recommends disapproval of the site plan as proposed. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have some questions on this one. I went and drove and looked at this today, and in talking about the parking lot being on the front of the building, does that just pertain to the north side of the street because there's multiple businesses, including the church across the street from there on the south side that has parking lots in the front of the building?
That's correct. As noted in the report, it specifically speaks to the north side of the street. With neighborhoods and elements of city planning, streets are typically considered boundaries that are harsh defining areas between certain neighborhoods and contexts of development. So yes, in that instance, we were specifically noting the north side of the street.
I had a question. Was there any objection by the owner? Like, was there a reason why their parking couldn't be in the back, or?
We were not provided any specific reasoning for the proposed location, no.
And the reason to have the concern in the front, I understand section 1101.7D, but is it because more of the roundabout was planned to be in that frontage area I know sometimes the roundabouts end up getting pushed to one corner of the or the other.
It would be a combination of all those things. We, even without the roundabout in the question, we typically look at the context of development and the surrounding properties to kind of make that judgment. As noted, the zoning code kind of always sets the starting point as no parking in the front yard, but we do typically try to look for surrounding properties as guidance. But in this instance, as noted on the north side, there are just no properties with parking areas, surface parking areas in the front yard.
Are we free to speak?
I'm sorry?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, if we
didn't
have
know.
an applicant online, the floor is open. You're welcome to state your position.
Okay.
Hey, thank you, Brandon. This is Ben Temple with the Tyler Group Land Survey, and we do have the owner on board who can answer, I think it was Miss Sandra Jones's question about that. And I think we have Chris Hervey online, and he's the owner, and so he wants to share a little bit. We also have, should have, Troop Bryant, who's a neighbor, and he wants to share a little bit too. And then, of course, the survey firm, myself, we have a couple comments as well. And I hope Rick Sowell's online. He is the architect who is redoing the project. And I think he's very excited to share some comments too. So, Chris, do you want to begin since you're the owner of the property?
Yes, sir. I'm ready. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
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 Okay. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, guys. We're grateful for this opportunity to come before you guys and present our ideas and our thoughts for this property. We're really excited about the property and improving it. So just a little bit about us. My name is Chris Hervey. I have my wife here, Yolanda. We are Conway natives. Went to Conway High School, graduated from Conway. So we were born and raised in Conway, and so we are familiar with the community through and through. We've been local business owners of this business for 5 years now, and our lease is now up where we currently preside. And so we wanted to look for an opportunity to invest within the community, and this property just stood out to us as one that may have been just sitting too long. And so one of the two things that we thought about in investing in this property, one was the neighbors, and two was our clients. And so we actually have sat down with Troop Bryant, which is one neighbor in Applewood Cove, and had a discussion with him and gave him our idea of having the parking lot up front. Because the one thing that we wanted to do is make sure that we kept the business on the front side of that property. The previous plans that we saw, it was like a whole complex of buildings and parking lots. And we just didn't want to have that type of look just, right in the middle of a neighborhood. And so our idea was to have that parking lot or the business in the front of us. Also had the chance to talk with a neighbor across the street, Miss Mary, across the street from Country Club. Had the opportunity to walk her through our property and told her our plans, and she was on board. She was just happy that someone was going to invest in that opportunity. And then the gentleman behind us on the back lot, Mr. Tribble, we had a discussion as well, and he was actually possibly interested in a lot. And so that's the first thing, is we want to make sure that the neighbors were okay, because we are community minded. But then secondly, it's our client base. We have an older client base, elderly client base, and we still have the clients who like to come in, hand you their check, speak to you, get their receipt. And so that was one of the other concerns we had with the parking lot being placed on the back end. Because one of the things that we know is going to be a change for them, number one, changing locations, but we wanted to make it as seamless as possible. It would be another thing to actually have the parking lot on the back and not as accessible to the front door where the individual will come in. And then also for our staff, when daylight saving time, of course we spring forward this time, but when we go back, just for safety measure for staff. I mean, coming out that back side of the parking lot, nothing's in front of us. There's no eyes on our property with that parking lot being in the back. And so if everything's up front, that's where our windows are, that's where my office is, and the young lady that's with us now. And so we can see everything in front of us. And lastly, I'll leave you with this, just being a risk management professional, I have to think about liability and exposure. So just imagine a loved one, whether they're elderly or disabled or just anyone who actually parks in the back and they end up falling. And then we have no idea what's behind us and how long that individual is there. It would be up to the, somebody passing by to see them. And so we just thought it would be more safe and more convenient for our clients and as well as our staff to keep everything in front of us where we have more eyes on the property and then we have our eyes on our clientele.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Troop, are you online as well, Troop Bryant?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Please go ahead.
So, yeah, first I have to say thank you very much for allowing us to have a little bit of time tonight for this conversation. And I do not envy any of the commission and board because these are not always easy decisions, especially when they affect your neighbors. And so one of the things I did want to do was just basically quickly kind of show a quick overview because the parking lot that's proposed by the city, by the staff, is frankly a parking lot that looks right into my backyard. Obviously, from that perspective, I'm not real happy about it. There's always ways for me to mitigate that to some extent, but that wasn't ever the plan. As well as the original PUD had a parking lot that faced Country Club, but also in this instance, because the PUD is being basically they're rehabbing a project or a house that frankly was an eyesore, condemned, rodents, all kind of issues. And so I can't thank the Herveys more for coming along, buying the property, and for the plan that they presented. And they did actually go around and talk to all of us as neighbors. And one of the things, whenever they kind of laid it out and showed us their plan, it made total sense to me and my neighbors on Applewood, because I live on Applewood Drive. I assumed that the neighbors that were on Country Club also enjoyed it because it truly does hold more to a house or a residential feel the way they've laid it out, even though the parking lot is in the front. The request for variance may be, a little bit different because look at it. We all make rules and we all try to follow those rules, but you got to use common sense. And sometimes common sense means, hey, let's put this house here. And while there's not normally a parking lot in the front, they need so few parking spaces based on the square footage now versus the original PUD that they're not taking any more parking space in the front, and they've basically gotten rid of all of the other structure that the PUD originally had. I actually have photos if I can share them for a second. I went out and measured it. I actually have taken a section of where the drive at Salem was, so I know that there is a proposed roundabout like the one at Salem, and I basically have done a measurement and set that same intersection right into the intersection. Is there a way for me to share by chance? All right, well then I'll be happy to email it's a PowerPoint presentation. I'll be happy to email that to someone, and then the original PUD, I'll put some explanation on it, and then if you guys have the opportunity to take a look at it. But obviously, the neighbors would much prefer a right in, right out, or a amended parking lot that maybe takes advantage of angled parking. That might be another suggestion, but anything that would continue to keep the parking on the very end of the structure facing east and on the south side of the structure, which is in front of the structure, allowing for their clientele to be able to easily pull in and then pull back out. And then that allows for those other two lots that are in the back of the property or to the north side to still be reinvested in a residential perspective, which is really truly the bulk of all of the presence is the residential area behind that house. So from a neighbor perspective, we'd love to be able to try to keep it that way, and I'll be happy to send my slides to you.
Okay, thank you, Troop. I appreciate you being on tonight and being a valued part of that community and giving your 2 cents. Really appreciate that. Just
But it's 1010 Applewood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just to quickly recap, because I know we got to move along. I know Rick wants to say something too. You know, from the Tyler Group survey perspective, one of the things that we think about is ADA compliant anytime we design something. And just so everybody is aware, when we did the topographical survey on that lot, the majority of that land sloped from south to north, which means not a big deal. It can definitely be done. But if that parking lot is put in where the city is proposing, that means everybody pushing someone up a wheelchair will be going uphill. And I've had a lot of experience in that, and every little inch adds to that. Not to mention, like Chris said, safety and weather. So again, just to recap what Chris said, I've known Chris for many years. He's a businessman who cares about investing in Conway. And as Troop said it, I think, he's investing in Conway in a permanent brick and mortar location, and he's looking to be there for the long term, y'all. And quite frankly, he is fixing up an eyesore, and that's my opinion. So I just want to encourage the Planning Commission to put yourself in Chris's shoes tonight and to think about his investment into the city of Conway. And I just want to encourage all of you to put yourself in his shoes. And last but not least, Rick, I know you're the architect on the project. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'd love to. This is Rick Sowell, architect, Sowell Architects. Our office is downtown at 1315 North Street. We've been working with Mr. and Mrs. Hervey on this since the beginning last year. As a planner, I can understand some of the comments that are coming from the planning department. And if we were, in fact, beginning this project from scratch, we would be more inclined to reorient the building, put it in a different location closer to the street, and then perhaps put the parking in the rear. However, we are dealing with an existing facility that already has a front door that's pointed toward the south or toward Prince Street. And so the recommendation to move the parking to the north side of the building moves that parking a very long way from the main entrance door. And handicap spaces would, of course, be very remote from the main entrance door. So there's space in front of the building facing the church for some parking spaces to go. Somebody mentioned they only need a few spaces. I think 7 would be the max. And so we took into account that there was a very possible future roundabout in that location. We looked at the 100-foot radius cut off of the corner that the city required. The parking still fits in there with room for screening and with room for sidewalks. And we just think it's a much better solution. The gentleman who's a neighbor mentioned that if the parking goes in the rear, it's essentially going in the location where the Herbies are planning for some future residential lots. And to me, if you want to keep with the residential flavor of the neighborhood, then you would not put a parking lot in the rear of the building where future residential lots would go. And I do believe that putting the parking lot on the south side of the building facing Prince Street is a more responsible way of handling this. And we can screen the parking without an issue. So that's our stance on it. We appreciate the Herveys and their desire to improve this corner. And there's no doubt this corner is a commercial corner and not a residential corner. So I would urge you to support them in this request. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sowell. Ben, I have one question for you, I guess for you too, Rick. I assume this, when I'm looking at page 10 of the report, the proposed and then the staff recommended, basically your site plan, I'm seeing this dark curved line. Is that the new right-of-way dedication line, which would accommodate the new roundabout?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's accounted for. And Levi can confirm that just to double check me.
Okay, great. My second question would be, Rick, there at the end, you mentioned you have no problem screening the parking, which is one of the requirements. How would you all propose to do that?
Mr. Rule, in our original site plan for this, we located the parking behind that big radius that will define the future roundabout. And then we screened it with a low masonry wall. I know that the planning department is okay with some kind of planting screen, but we wanted to make sure that we could accommodate what we wanted to do. And so we've shown it as having a low masonry wall, much like the one that everybody would be familiar with would be at the Conway Ford building there on Locust, something that would keep the lights from shining onto adjacent properties. That's the plan at this point. It's flexible, but we do have room to do that.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners,
Just
any questions?
A question for the Harveys. How many people are in and out of your business each day?
Hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. We probably have about 4 people a day. Yep.
And how many total employees are there?
We have 2 other employees other than myself right now.
So on average, about 7 cars total a day?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Question, and this may be more for Levi, I'm not sure. Going back to the actual zoning code, in talking about the lots, it specifically says strongly discouraged, but it doesn't say not permitted. And then my next question is, was this zoning code made after, other businesses on that corridor on the south side had their parking lots in the front?
Yeah. So you're correct. It says strongly discouraged, and staff's policy to err on the side of caution and apply that in a more rigorous way. And then if appealed, puts it in your hands to use your best judgment. So I think that answers that question. As far as the time frame, I couldn't tell you what the date of all the development on the opposing side of the street was. I know that this code came into effect in 2007, or this specific requirements, but I cannot tell you how that compares with the time of development.
Thank you, sir.
This is Rick Sowell. One more time, I'm also the architect for the church across the street, and that was developed prior to that date, and that parking was installed before that regulation came along.
Levi, that's the other comment that I want to follow up on with Laura's comment. With the church being across the street, I don't see where there would be an issue with it being in the front. I did appreciate the clarification from Mr. Hervey about the safety issue of the employees and the patrons to their business, which I hadn't considered that before asking the question about the rear parking. But I do think with the church having parking in the front as well, and I know if you drive a little bit further down on Prince, I think there's a law firm that has parking in the front. I know that there's some vacant property around it, but I don't really see the difference other than the roundabout being put there, and it looks like it's been accounted for in this survey. So I don't have an issue with this one after the clarification from everyone on the phone call.
Commissioner, floor is still open for any further discussion or questions for the applicant or for Mr. Hill.
I just have one more. And I think maybe Mr. Sowell, you did say that even with the roundabout planned being there, there's still adequate room for the 4 or 5 spaces that they may need for employee and patron parking?
Yes, that's correct.
Just for clarification, if there is to be parking in the front, will all parking be in the front, included employees, or will there be some parking planned for the back with employees?
Yeah, this is
Go ahead, Mr. Stout.
Ben, are you there? You want to, this is Rick Sowell. Ben, do you want to address that or do you want me to?
We've got it set up where the majority of the parking is all going to be in between Prince and the front door. We were trying to make, there's already a carport on the north side right behind the house that has one space. And so depending on how this outcome comes, we were going to see if it makes sense with the city to use that one space that's already existing for employee parking in the back, or if it makes more sense to clean it up and make it more aesthetically. I think, Rick, I don't know if y'all decided to redo that back or not. I mean, part of Chris's goal is to make it, you know, a little better on the facade on the outside. So, but the majority of the parking, I think there's 6 in the front and 1 in the back, which would be directly coming off of Country Club.
Is there a rear entry door? I couldn't see that from, is there somewhere, if that one spot was left back there, can someone even get in from that, or would they have to walk around the building?
There is a back door to that parking space. And so somebody could enter there. We were, excuse me, we were seeing that parking space as the owner's parking space, so he could park undercover.
Okay.
And then walk in through the back
I have
door.
to know that the parking, the door in the back is also not handicap accessible. It's,
Okay.
It has
That-
stairs going up to the door.
Okay.
Could the parking in the back, could diagonal parking be taken advantage of to accommodate all employee parking?
The diagonal parking doesn't save you much room, and it makes it more difficult to back out and get out of a dead end lane. So I don't see that as a reasonable solution to that.
And also, to Rebecca's question, if there's stairs back there and you ever hire an employee that has a disability, then that may not work. But didn't you say that there were stairs to get into the back entrance? So, I mean, you have to still be able to accommodate the employees as well, even if there were parking in the back for someone that.
Yes, that's
that worked
correct.
there. And how soon do you look to develop that lot behind there? Like, is there a plan for that? I know one of the neighbors was saying if the parking was in the back, that would definitely maybe put unwanted lighting in their backyard. So
We're working with the Tyler Group right now to subdivide the property and get that going, hopefully in the next year.
okay.
Do the Herveys plan to develop and live back there, or to build a home back there and have their home and business on the same spot, or are you gonna subdivide that and get rid of it?
Yes, ma'am. That we wouldn't live there ourselves. The idea is to subdivide it and get rid of it.
Okay.
Yes.
It's just a continuation of the residential lots that already exist there.
Yeah, right behind them.
Yeah, because there's some townhomes there now, or garden homes now, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it would just fall right in line with those.
And staff wants to know, this is Levi, staff wants to know that in terms of the conversation with the ADA parking, regardless of the location of the parking, the building code will dictate that there be a handicap accessible entrance from a ADA approved parking space. So that'll be handled regardless of location of parking or number of parking spaces.
And Mr. Hill.
I was trying to comment that and I think I got cut off. Thank you, Levi.
And Mr. Hill, isn't it always a better practice to locate a handicap parking space somewhat near the main entrance where the accessible ramp is? In this case, we don't want to park, put the handicap space in the rear, and then they have to come all the way around the building to get into.
I'm not familiar with the floor plan. I do know projects where it's been a specified handicap entrance from the rear of the property because that's where the handicap spaces were located. I think it just depends on project to project.
I have just one more quick question. When I was out there today, I noticed there were several large old trees in the front of that lot. In order to accommodate the parking, is the plan to take down those trees, or can you leave any of them that might leave some of that residential feel to kind of hide the parking?
Yeah, Commissioner King, this is Rick Sowell again. In our layout of that parking space, we have left large open green areas beneath each one of those two large trees, so we could make our best effort to retain those. So that, as far as I know, there's not a desire to remove those trees.
And just to follow up on what Rick said, we met Chris and Yolanda out there, and that was a part of their plan as well, to keep them. So our engineering specifically designed around those trees to keep them. As you know, with construction, that can have an impact. But hopefully, if the parking lot is passed tonight and we do put it in the front, we're going to do our best effort to keep those trees. Now, one of the big, beautiful trees, and this is just part of development, and I'm typically for it, is in that roundabout. So eventually, I think one of those is going to have to go, but that's going to be because of city development with the roundabout. So I just want to clarify, we're going to try to save, I know for sure, the one big one, and the parking lot is specifically designed around that, but the other one that's existing will probably not make the roundabout expansion.
It was mentioned earlier that the zoning, I may repeat it wrong, the zoning laws, I guess, was implemented in 2007. Is that what you said, Levi?
That's correct. This specific section of the zoning code.
Okay, zoning code. Thank you. I couldn't get the right word there. When was the property purchased?
October 2020. October?
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Do we know why the parking can't be to the side of this building with a sidewalk going around to the front?
You mean the side facing east, Commissioner?
Facing east.
Yeah, there's very little room there. There's just barely room to get a drive and parking spaces there. So if I remember correctly, the plan does show some parking beginning on the east side and wrapping around to the south side. You just can't get it all on the east side.
I see. I was looking at the pictures. I didn't get a chance to drive out there, and I was looking at the pictures, and it looked to me like there was ample room, but apparently not.
Yeah, it's difficult to get enough spaces in there.
And part of that is because of the roundabout. Chris is yielding to that, and I don't know what choice he has, to be frank with you. But in part of that, he's losing ground that he purchased probably on the per acre to the roundabout. So part of that is lost ground. The roundabout's taking some of that as well.
Do we have a timeline on when that roundabout's going to go in?
Not a specific one, no.
Okay.
One of the things in the staff recommendation, I think in bullet point 2 was, it's unlikely that the development would allow sufficient space for a future sidewalk or applicable landscape requirements. I heard about screening the parking. What about landscaping? Can that be addressed? I mean, is someone prepared or able to talk? We may be too early on to be able to address that.
Rick, that may be more of a question for you than me.
Yeah, originally when the layout was completed, there was ample space for landscaping. Ben, the truth is, I'm not looking at your final plan, and so I can't really comment on it.
Well, you know, there is the kind of the U-shaped curve that goes around one of the big trees. And so there is some definite space there for aesthetics. And as well on the south and west side, there's definitely some room. And then additionally, although it may not be as well seen, between the parking lot and the building, there's also, you know, lots of room for landscaping around between the parking and the building. As far as ground between when the roundabout comes through in the parking lot, you know, there's one particular where the parking lot would be a little close. But there's also an area where the entire curve is wide open as well, and I think you can see that on the plat in the handout from the city. If you follow that dark bold line around, it's got a C1 beside it, and that is the right of way for the roundabout. And so you can kind of see the space between the parking lot and that future roundabout.
So,
yes.
So I guess just really and truly, and I'll just be very blunt here. I mean, trying to do what's best for everybody. In the staff report, it says at this time, the applicant has not addressed the comments noted above and has appealed the decision of the planning department. So I guess just trying to, understand the work that the staff and the planning department do. Why have the comments not been addressed?
I saw that same, Rebecca, I saw the same comment, and I guess I thought opposite of that, because I think it was Mr. Sowell that spoke about how they still had space to, especially as it relates to option number 2, where it says the roundabout is planned there and there's not enough room for development, when they clearly said that it was. So I thought maybe that comment was maybe in error or wasn't a full view of what we're looking at, because I think we've heard several times them rebut the exact comments the staff made. And so I'm curious if when Mr. Sowell spoke about there being enough room for the cordoning off of the parking lot from the roundabout, and the city and the planning department was aware of that, I was kind of confused on that comment as well. Because if they know about it, and is the staff in disagreement that there will be room for that to happen? I guess that's a question, Mr. Hill. Are you disagreeing that with the plat they shown and the issues that they've addressed, that there will be room for the parking lot? Is that something in contention, or do you agree with that?
So that comment specifically to the landscaping comes from a section in 1101 that requires all development to provide a 10 feet wide planting strip along all street frontage, exclusive of right-of-way that's being dedicated. As you see in the site plan, the curbing of the parking lot comes immediately to where the right-of-way line would be, effectively providing none of that 10-foot landscape strip that's typically required on every other development in the city. That's where that comment comes from. So staff would be in disagreement that that requirement will be met as proposed.
Wait, this is true, Bryant. So after I went out and measured it out, there's still 8 feet. So it's 2 feet shy of your 10 feet. And again, you're talking about the front of a building facing a very commercial street that you're putting a huge roundabout in the middle of. So my concern would be is you're really arguing over 2 feet for beautification.
I believe the drawing's to scale, so I'm not positive that there will be 8 feet there. And looking at the site plan provided by the applicant.
Well, if I measured it out properly, and then I'm not an engineer by any means, but I think I saw that there was about 8 feet left between the parking lot and the sidewalk, or where you would have a sidewalk, because I accounted for 5 feet for the sidewalk. So unless I accounted wrong in a section, there should be about 8 feet, at least 5 of those feet. I know that I wouldn't have missed it by that far, but at least 5 feet. So you're talking 5 out of 10.
Ben or Rick, would either one of you like to confirm or deny that?
Well, I would say this. The staff comments, and we of course respect the staff a lot and work with them every day and appreciate all they do. Those comments, in my opinion, are exactly what they say they are. They are likely, they are opinions, and they are disencouraged. It's not that it cannot be done, and I think we've all seen examples across the street and further down. And I think the final point that's the most important thing to think about is exactly what Rick said. If this was a new development, we would make it perfect. But the fact is, it's an existing eyesore, and Chris is trying to do the very best that he can with the space that he lost due to the roundabout. And that's my comment.
Commissioners, any further questions? It does appear that is my biggest concern is the 10-foot landscape buffer and the sidewalk, the future sidewalk that would be inside that right-of-way dedication. It appears that the southeast corner of the proposed parking is nearly touching the line of the right-of-way dedication. And the only way to remedy that would to be lose the island and lose the tree and put all the parking together, which isn't the greatest solution either.
So, Commissioner, the thought process is it's just 2 blocks away. There's where pre-existing businesses. When you put the roundabout in at Salem and Prince, there's no buffer for any of those. And while I get that we don't want to have that same thing, we'd love, as a neighbor, I'd love to have it look very much more like a house than as a business. But the truth and reality is that it is it's probably, we couldn't have asked for a better neighbor. We could not have. But as long as there's room for a sidewalk, the beautification part, I mean, the city's going to force the cutting down of a 120-year-old oak tree. So kind of wondering why we're worried about 10 feet of beautification between the street and a parking lot. And one last thing, especially whenever the original PUD didn't allow for it.
And going back to the specific language of the code, staff will point out from the appeal language, there is specific criteria that is lined out, and I'll go ahead and read that into the record before any decisions are made. But it does say section 1101.6, criteria to apply. The design principles and/or architectural integrity of an established neighborhood are not diminished or substantially changed based upon the proposed development, or the proposed development is in general conformity with the predominant style or is reasonably compatible with the theme of styles present in the neighborhood, or the neighborhood is deemed to be transitory in nature, thereby becoming one in which the proposed design or architectural style, if reasonably believed to be replicated with the neighborhood, may lead to subsequent predominant style.
And I understand completely what you're saying, and I definitely want to be in code. I think where I'm struggling right now is that directly across the street, there are 2 massive parking lots that are open that look, that this is not going to be nearly as large. And if they leave the trees, you're not even really going to be able to see them as much. So I think that's where I'm struggling, is we're trying to adhere to this beautification when there's 2 massive parking lots across the street.
And let me add, this is Yolanda Harvey. Let me add my feelings on this as far as the parking lot in the front versus the back is I think that as far as from a beautification standpoint, it makes more sense to have it in the front, keeping in line with the church and other businesses on that corner. Putting it in the back basically puts a parking lot in the middle of their neighborhood, and that's just not pretty.
I'll be honest, I personally don't have an issue with the parking in the front. My main concern here is just the compliance with the landscaping and the sidewalks. Again, in the future, that street, that roadway will be right there on top of those parking spaces. So the ability to create some sort of buffer there, being that screening and safety for those vehicles that are doing 45 miles an hour around that roundabout. That's my only concern.
Yeah, I was going to say, we thought about that as well. And speaking to Troop's point on Salem, where Regions is, we know they're in that roundabout. And then a little further down, I think there's another business in the roundabout. And I don't know of any accidents that have, if that's a frequent accident place, but you do have those businesses that are within roundabouts that I don't know of any, major issues.
Well, and in that same roundabout, isn't the florist that's there on the corner of Prince and Salem? I mean, their parking lot comes out almost immediately after you come out of the roundabout. So you have traffic entering right there with people doing that 45 miles an hour through the roundabout, and there's no buffer whatsoever.
Well, commissioners, I think we should wrap this up. I think if we don't have any further questions for the applicant or supporting staff, we can bring this back into discussion. Like I said, I'll kick off the discussion. Like I said, I don't necessarily have any problem with the parking in the front. For the neighbor's sake, I would probably prefer it. But again, concerns about the landscaping and the screening of the parking, setting a precedent. But I could potentially move to approve the parking in the front if the proposed screening wall, I believe, and it's a real fine print here, it says a screening wall, 36-inch minimum height, which Mr. Sowell stated would be out of masonry. I think that could look really nice and could help with some of those security concerns or safety concerns. What do y'all think?
I'm more inclined to approve than deny because of the fact that they have taken, in my opinion, a step to address some of the issues with the wall and other things they've mentioned. One of the things that I kept hearing, and it made a lot of sense to me, is that this is not a new structure. And so it's almost like the buyers are being penalized for trying to reinvest. They could have easily bought land somewhere and built, and this wouldn't be an issue. But trying to reinvest there, it's like we're penalizing them. And if they wanted to have a grand, huge parking lot that went to the street, that may be an issue. But I think I heard Mr. Sowell say there will be 6 spots up front, which is space, but it will still leave space between, from what I'm viewing here, the parking lot and the road. And so I'm not seeing as huge an issue as is presented in the staff comments. That's my personal opinion, though.
Well, and lucky for them that I don't know how far along street department is with the design of that roundabout, but potentially the design of that roundabout could be altered to accommodate the sidewalks outside of the right-of-way dedication.
We know what the dimensions are of that wall at Regions? Is it equivalent to what's proposed here at the Regions Bank? Because I agree that's a very nice way that that's done.
I'd say it's in the neighborhood of that 36 inches. Of course,
Yeah,
they have an elevation change. It drops down into the site.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just a procedure question, just to the point that we don't do a ton of these appeals. Does this still go to the city council for approval, or are we the final body on this?
If approved, you're the final body.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
Make a motion to approve.
I second.
Can we get clarification on what it is that we're approving in the motion? And the only reason I ask is because the staff recommendation is written in such a way that it's to disapprove. And so can we just get clarification in the motion on what we're voting?
It would be approving the applicant's appeal of the denial. And Rebecca, to your earlier point, you all will likely start seeing more of these. And the reason being is staff has gotten very uncomfortable with the situation of approving exceptions. It does not occur in a transparent process. It's not prone to these types of conversations. And so moving forward, we are heading in a direction of staff's role is to interpret the regulations, show what it is, compliance or non-compliance, and if there is non-compliance, then the decision on whether that's okay or not would be the decision of the planning commission. So we're trying to take our individual discretion out of those decision-making processes and making sure that it happens in a transparent public way.
I appreciate that clarification and thank you for that explanation. Thank you.
Okay, I heard a motion for Mr. Webb. Did I hear a second?
Yes, I second it.
All right, so we've got a motion on the floor of Mr. Webb and a second by Arthur. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Let's see. We have 3 nays. Any abstentions? Mr. Townsend, were you a yay or a nay?
I was a yay.
And I vote yay as well. So is that 5-3? Who am I missing? Yeah, there's 9. Let's do that. Let's do a roll call. Arthur?
Yay.
Ann?
Nay.
Rebecca?
Nay.
Drew?
Nay.
Letitia?
Yay.
Laura?
Yay.
And Brian?
Yay.
And Larry?
Yay.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the motion passes 6-3. Okay, moving on to our public hearings this evening. I'd like to state that the Conway Planning Commission makes recommendations to the City Council on these public hearing items. Items reviewed on this agenda will be considered by the City Council as early as March 23rd, 2021. Excuse me. Items not approved by the Planning Commission may be appealed to the City Council within 30 days of Planning Commission denial, with the exception of decisions that are made by the Planning Commission acting as the Board of Zoning Adjustment. If an item is appealed to the City Council, a public notice will be placed on the property and at conwayarkansas.gov. The first item we have for public hearings tonight of 2 is the request to rezone a property at 1850 East German Lane from an R1 to a C2. And we have Ms. Skeeto here to walk us through that this evening.
Yes, good evening. So the applicant is seeking to rezone 10 acres located at 1850 East German Lane. It's property located just northeast of the intersection of Bill Lucy Drive and East German Lane. It's currently zoned R1. The applicant is seeking C2. This property was recently annexed into the city as R1, and it's surrounded predominantly by residential, multifamily, agricultural, and institutional uses. This site is designated as traditional neighborhood by both the comprehensive plan and also the Lower Ridge Road Corridor Study. Traditional neighborhood developments are characterized by compact, pedestrian-oriented design, including various types of housing, commercial activities, and open space. As such, a mixed-use development would be appropriate for the property, but development solely for commercial or industrial use is not appropriate. If rezoned and developed per the uses permitted by right in C2, the traffic increase could be significant given the size of the site. A secondary application for a conditional use permit to allow mini storage development at the property will be considered on the April agenda, but that will be pending the outcome of this rezoning request, as mini storage is not permitted as a conditional use in R1. As a result, staff recommends denial of this rezoning request as it does not align with either the comprehensive plan or the Lower Ridge Road corridor study, and it could negatively impact adjacent properties. I'm available if you have any questions.
We do have several public comments on this item this evening, so I would like to put a cap of 10 minutes for the first person to speak in favor of this request, and then any additional support we would allow two minutes to express that support, and then likewise on the opposition we would give 10 minutes to any comments, and then following 2 for any additional comments. So with that, do we have the applicant on the line that would like to add or speak in favor of this request?
Yes. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
It's Christopher Sala with Century 21. I'm at 1513 East Sherman Lane. And sold a lot of property in the area. I don't know if any of y'all remember me on the Planning Commission for 2019 when I rezoned 1235 and 1295 East Sherman from R1 to MF1 without a buyer. We rezoned that property, and of course you can see they're building their townhome apartments over there. Done a lot of other work in that area. Sold 1320, 1340, and 1350 East Sherman, right across the street there. Sold the corner there on Rumker in East Sherman over to Mark Palladino. We did have a couple of letters of support. I don't know if y'all got that in y'all's email this afternoon or not.
We do.
One of those was, from Mark, Lisa Ferguson that bought the property over there at 1320, 40, and 50 East Sherman, and Mr. Spradlin that owns the property right across from Ridge Smith Development there. I talked to Lauren Hoffman this afternoon, and what our plan was, I work with a lot of developers here in town, and it's been the last 2 years really helping out the folks on East Sherman and expanding that area. And under the C2 zoning, it does allow for, duplexes on a conditional use permit. And according to Lauren, with the newspaper not running the storage units in the newspaper like they were supposed to have done, it gives a chance if the C2 zoning were to pass this evening, that we could come back next month with a conditional use for duplexes. Over there on East Sherman Lane, they, as far as duplexes go, we think storage units wouldn't be a bad idea. Just like East Sherman, there's multiple apartments over there. They fill up just about as quick as they can get them built. And, there's not any other storage units on that side of town except for where they're building right across the road there on East Conway. Over there, the property right behind the Schutz, there's 80 acres that Mr. Shaw's buying. And I've talked to him several times about what our plans were. Even though he did not write a letter in support, he didn't have any complaints on that particular piece of property. So, of course, we agree there's a lot of multifamily in the area, and I think that either, storage units or duplexes would be an appropriate zoning for that 10 acres that the Schutz have right there on that property.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, your intent here for this rezoning is just speculative to make the property more marketable?
But, of course, we did this with 1235 and 1295 East Sherman. It was speculative, but we rezoned it and had it sold in 2 months. And you can see what they're doing over there. I'm sure y'all are very well aware of what's going right there in front of Nicole's place.
Yes. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Seiler?
I also wanted to add right quick, if it's okay to add, right across from their property, right behind Wills Drive, Rouse Coleman's building, from what I've understood from their agent over there, they're going to build, I believe, 105 homes. It's all going to be, rental property right there. And there's an 8-foot fence that runs. I don't know if y'all I sent a picture to Lauren. I think she's supposed to have emailed it to y'all, the 8-foot high fence that runs from the Shook's property between the apartments and Shook's So, I mean, it divides that property off. And, you know, like I say, a lot of that is rental property, you know, over there on that side of town, on, you know, behind the Hearts. So, you know, it wouldn't be an inappropriate zoning to allow the duplexes if, you know, if y'all didn't want storage units there.
Thank you, Mr. Seiler. I think we're good for now. Now we'll move to see if we have some additional support. We're going to let James go ahead and just read all the letters that we've received.
All right, I'll be going forward one positive, one negative, and then till we're exhausted. I didn't mean that in a sense of, we're probably all a little exhausted right now, but I meant all the letters are read. To whom it may concern, my property located at the corner of East German Lane and Rumker Road is currently zoned as A1. The property located at 1850 East German Lane is currently zoned as R1. It has been proposed that the aforementioned property be rezoned to C2. It is my belief that the rezoning of this property would be beneficial. The majority of the property in the general area is currently commercial and multifamily. The redesignation from A1 to C2 would not deviate from the current planning intent of the area. Thank you in advance for your time and consideration, Mark Palladino. In opposition, ladies and gentlemen of the commission, thank you for your time today. We own the property on the northwest corner of Bill Lucy Drive and East German Lane, directly across from the applicant. Our property has an existing conditional use permit for self-storage. We have started the process of clearing trees and have installed silt fence. Our facility will be built out on 13 acres, and there will be 900 plus units, ranging in size from 5x10s to 14x50s, as well as temperature-controlled options. We have a proven track record of building, owning, and running self-storage facilities with facilities in Heber Springs, Cabot, and Jacksonville. This facility will be built in a fortress style similar to our facilities in Heber Springs and Cabot. We ask the Commission to view photographs of these facilities on their websites, www.campgroundstorage.com, www.edenislestorage.com. We do not feel there is need for additional self-storage directly across from our facility. We ask the Commission to deny the rezoning request. We also ask the Commission to deny the conditional use request. Again, thank you for your time, and we look forward to building a facility that we and the city of Conway will be proud of. And that's from East German Storage and 1101 North Redmond Road, Jacksonville, Arkansas. Regarding rezoning of the property at 1850 East German Lane, it has been brought to our attention that there is a proposal to rezone the property located at 1850 East German Lane from R1 to C2. We own the properties located at 1320, 1340, and 1350 East German Lane, and those properties are currently zoned R1. We feel like there is a possibility that these properties may at some time in the future be rezoned as multifamily as well. We believe that rezoning 1850 East German Lane to C2 could be beneficial, as it could open opportunities for future possibilities that could benefit the rapidly growing developing area. Thank you for your time. J. Lynn Ferguson and Lisa Ferguson at 5105 Round Rock Drive, Conway, Arkansas. Dear members of the Planning Commission, on behalf of the Cottages at Conway Limited Partnership, which owns and operates the Cottages at Conway multifamily apartment community located at 1915 Rich Smith Lane in Conway, I am writing to express my strong opposition to the land use rezoning of 1850 German Lane from R1 to C2. This item is scheduled to go in front of the Commission on March 14th, 2021. The zoning proposal is for storage facility, which would be out of character with the surrounding neighborhood and devalue residential properties in the area. A commercial facility is inconsistent with the developed area. None of the properties contiguous with 1850 East German Lane are commercial in nature. We urge you to disapprove the proposed rezoning, and from discussions with my neighbors, I know my opinions are shared by many. Thank you for your continued service and support of our community. Sincerely, the Cottages at Conway Limited Partnership. By Conway Cottages LLC, its general partner, Danielle Lideker, now manager. They're located at 1201 Military Road, Benton, Arkansas. This is from Jerry Spradlin, owner of 1503 East German Lane, 6 acres, Spradlin Properties. In effort of the rezone of 1850 East German Lane from R1 to C2, I fully support. The area is changing to multifamily and commercial. As Conway continues to grow, East German Lane is as well. This rezone will not negatively affect my property value or any of the land surrounding. Dear members of the Planning Commission, on behalf of the Cottages at Conway Phase 2 Limited Partnership, which owns and operates the Cottages at Conway Phase 2 multifamily apartment community located in 1905 Rich Smith Lane in Conway, I'm writing to express my strong opposition to land use rezoning of 1850 East German Lane from R1 to C2. This item is scheduled to go in front of the Commission on March 14th, 2021. The zoning proposal is for a storage facility which would be out of character with the surrounding neighborhood to devalue residential properties in the area. A commercial facility is inconsistent with the developed area. None of the properties contiguous with 1850 East German Lane are commercial in nature. We urge you to disapprove the proposed rezoning, and from discussions with my neighbors, I know my opinions are shared by many. Thank you for your continued service and support of our community. Sincerely, the Cottages at Conway Phase 2 Limited Partnership by Cottages Management Conway Phase 2 LLC. Its general partner, Tara Burleson, sole member. This is at 1201 Military Road, Benton, Arkansas. We have an identical letter from Rich Smith Holdings LLC. It's by ALS Investments. Its member, the president is R.B. Smith at 9800 Maumelle Boulevard. And an additional identical letter. They're not identical, so I will have to read them. On behalf of Rich Smith Holdings, LLC, DBA Rich Smith Properties, which owns real property located in 1910 Rich Smith Lane, 1590 East German Lane, and 1620 East German Lane in Conway, I'm writing to express my strong opposition to the land use rezoning of 1850 East German from R1 to C2. This item is scheduled to go in front of the Commission March 14th, 2021. The zoning proposal is for a storage facility which would be out of character with the surrounding neighborhood. A storage facility would be inconsistent with the developed area and would disturb the quiet enjoyment of the area. We urge you to disapprove the proposed rezoning, and from discussions with my neighbors, I know my opinions are shared by many. Thank you for your continued service and support of our communities. So that was a letter from that individual. On behalf of the Park Ridge at Conway Limited Partnership, which owns and operates the Park Ridge at Conway multifamily apartment community located in 1950 Rich Smith Lane in Conway, I'm writing to express my strong opposition to land use rezoning of 1850 East Sherman Lane from R1 to C2. This item is scheduled to go in front of the Commission March 14th, 2021. The zoning proposal is for a storage facility which would be out of character with the surrounding neighborhood and devalue residential properties in the area. A commercial facility is inconsistent with the developed area. None of the properties contiguous with 1850 East German Lane are commercial in nature. We urge you to disapprove the proposed rezoning, and from discussions with the neighbors, I know my opinions are shared by many. Thank you for continued service and support of our community. Sincerely, Park Ridge at Conway Limited Partnership, Park Ridge Management LLC, General Partner, R.B. Smith Member, 1950 Rich Smith Lane, Conway, Arkansas. We have a very similar letter from Park Ridge at Conway Phase 2 Limited Partnership, which owns property at 1985 Rich Smith Lane. Additionally, a similar Park Ridge at Conway Phase 3 Limited Partnership, which is at the same address. And then an additional letter which is the same at 2010 Rich Smith Lane for the Point at Conway LLC. So those are all the letters.
Thank you, James. And do we have anyone else on the line, Facebook Live, elsewhere, speak in favor or in opposition of this request?
There are no.
Lost count there. There was 8 letters against and 3 for. Is that right?
I believe it was 10 in opposition and well, how many? I think there was 8, yeah, 8 and 3.
Okay, thank you.
And James or Brandon, can you guys provide some clarification for me since I'm kind of new to this? So 5 of the opposition letters were written by the same person who owns different businesses in that area. So do we take that as 5 separate letters of opposition, or it's just one guy with multiple businesses? And then I think the cottages are owned by it was 2 letters of opposition owned by the same people as well. Just for some clarification, please.
So there is one that is from the storage facility that's been approved across the street. That is one unique. A letter from Danielle Lideker-Nall, manager, which it doesn't matter if they're connected or not, but there's one from that individual, one from Tara Burleson as well, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from R.B. Smith. So there's 4 unique individuals from which letters have been submitted. And then the letters in support were from 3 unique individuals.
All right, if we don't have any more public comment, or questions for our applicant, we can bring this back into commission for discussion. Commissioners, what do you think?
My personal opinion is that we need more residential out there than we do commercial.
I agree.
So given that, I mean, if nobody else has anything else to say, given that all of this has to be in the positive, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. We have a
And are you approving the staff recommendation?
You have to make a motion to approve and it either fails but the motion is to rezone from R1 to C2.
Yeah, I understand about making a motion in positive. I'm just questioning, and I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to make sure I understand. Are you moving to approve the motion, the request from R1 to C2, or are you moving to approve the staff recommendation? I just want clarity on which one you're moving to approve.
I'm moving to approve the request to rezone. The staff recommendation is just that. It's a recommendation.
No, I understand. I just wanted to make sure I understand which one you're moving to approve.
No.
So we have a motion on the floor from Ann. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second from Brian. Well, let me just go ahead and make a roll call. Mr. Ingram.
Nay, sorry.
You're good.
Coming.
Ms. Tucker.
Nay.
Ms. Fincher.
Nay.
Mr. Gaynor.
Nay.
Ms. Jones. We lose her. Ms. King.
Nay.
Mr. Townsend.
Nay.
And Mr. Webb.
Hey.
All right. Motion fails. Okay, now moving into our second public hearing item this evening is a request to rezone the property at 2310 East Oak Street from C3 to R1. Oh, I'm sorry, C3 and R1 to an S1. Mr. Hill.
That's correct. Item 3B is a request to rezone the property at 2310 East Oak Street from R1 single family and C3 highway commercial to S1. which is the city's industrial or institutional zoning district, I'm sorry. If approved, the rezoning would align the site's zoning classification with the existing religious facility use currently operating, while also correcting the site's split zone condition. As no change in the use is being proposed, staff anticipates no changes to the traffic volumes or patterns at the site. The comprehensive plan designates the site as transition and single family, which is consistent with the applicant's zoning request. Staff recommends approval of the rezoning request as it will allow appropriate use of the property and will not likely result in harm to any adjacent properties. I'm happy to answer any questions.
If there is no immediate questions for Mr. Hill, we will entertain support from our applicant. Do we have an applicant on the line? I believe we do. I think you're muted. Mr. Mann, do you have anything to add to this?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any opposition to this request? Facebook world, I'm getting a nod no. Okay. If there's no further public comment, commissioners, we can bring this back into commission for discussion.
If there's no discussion, move to approve the request to rezone R1 and C3 1.
Second.
Got a motion from Ms. Fincher and a second from Mr. Gaynor. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Very good. Motion passes unanimously. We have some additional, and that concludes our public hearing items for this evening. We have some additional business here. Looks like the adoption of a citywide historic preservation plan.
Yes. So this plan is the result of probably about, I guess, a year and a half of work. The city got a grant in 2019 to work with the Walker Collaborative to develop a citywide historic preservation plan for the city. It's been adopted by the Historic District Commission, and what we're wanting to do with this is adopt it as an appendix to the comprehensive plan. That makes the goals and policies of the plan sort of a part of the city's overall land use policy. After it's heard here, we'll be taking it to the city council for adoption. Some of the major provisions in the plan itself are to do more education outreach to preserve our historic assets, and then from a development or policy perspective, enhancing some of the review within downtown and the Hendricks Edition, which are two National Register historic districts that we have indicated. We're wanting to take that from what is currently in the old Conway review area or overlay district and make those local districts that would be sort of an enhanced level of review that occurs with that. Most notably, it would prevent demolition. One thing that we're very concerned about is the demolition of any structure downtown. We don't want that to happen. Some of the other things that are recommended as part of the plan are streamlining some of the review processes. So for instance, we currently have a 30-day review process for a lot of the applications that go to Historic District Commission. The proposal would be for certain items where we can do that is to make those an administrative review element. So if there are any questions or not snide remarks, I'll take them all.
So are we voting to approve this?
Correct.
And to move on to city council, okay.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Rebecca. We have a motion from Rebecca and a second from Mr. Webb. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye as well. Any opposed? Very good. I think that's a good move. The only other thing that I had, unless you guys have anything else, is we've had some discussion about moving back into in-person meetings. Just wanted to kind of table you guys, see what your comfort level is coming into City Hall. And we can try to start that next month, or if you're not comfortable, I think we can kind of take a hybrid approach. We're obviously here with staff, so what do y'all think? Y'all want to keep doing Zooms, or would you like to come into City Hall?
I don't care if I never see another Zoom again, as long as I live. I'm ready to come back.
Any other opinions?
Is it too much trouble to keep the hybrid approach and just kind of see how it plays out over the next few months?
Yeah, we can reasonably distance a few people, so I think essentially if you're going to attend in person, let us know. I guess that's the best thing to say there. We don't necessarily want to have everybody unless we're going whole hog. We are still not going to be, for the foreseeable future, open to the public in terms of having public at the meetings, but we can accommodate some commissioners if y'all want, or if y'all all want to come back. But I think probably with everybody's comfort level, there's some type of hybrid approach is probably workable.
Well, I'm certainly happy to let Miss Ann come in person if she wants to, and I'll
to death too, and I'm fully vaccinated, so I'm pretty bulletproof.
Very good. Well, we'll see how it goes. If you just let us know who wants to come in, who would like to prefer to stay on the Zoom, and we'll kind of just see how it goes.
Hey, Brandon, I assume that any in-person meetings will require a mask. Are there any worries about being muffled or hearing us behind the mask? I know, is that a worry at all? Or we're going to test it out to make sure that you can be heard and that you can actually make sure that, because I'm assuming we'll all have to wear a mask, right? That'll be a foregone conclusion. Is there any worry about us being heard and being able to be understood behind the mask when you get more people in the room with the microphone there?
Yeah, that's a great question.
We can distance.
Yeah. So you can see, like, James and I are a good 6-8 feet away from each other, and enough seats for us to spread out across here. So I don't think that would be as much of a concern. And the noise, probably not. I mean, I think we've all gotten used to hearing muffled voices through masks, but
we can add tables as well.
Yeah, we can spread out in here if we need to. But again, it's totally up to you guys and your comfort level. Just wanted to pose the question, and as we move forward and everything starts to settle down, we can see how it goes.
That sounds great.
Hey, I just had a comment, and I wanted to just apologize directly to Rebecca because the Zooms are a little bit behind, and I think that she was trying to finish talking, and I think I was the person that came behind her, and she said that she was trying to finish her thought and she was cut off. I did put it in the chat and did offer an apology, but I didn't see a response, so I didn't know if you saw it. So I just wanted to make sure that you didn't think it was on purpose or intentional, that was done.
All good.
Thanks.
Letitia, you're one of the nicest people on the planet. We know you wouldn't do that on purpose.
Thanks for the thumbs up.
I was doing 8th grade math. Got away from me, and so my alarm went off and I ignored it because I was caught up in 8th grade math. I'm sorry I was late tonight.
No worries.
I hope you passed your quiz, Arthur.
Listen, I'm so over it. Listen, you want to come help? It's tired.
No, I don't want to help with math because I might not do good.
That's great. Well, if there's no further business or discussion, I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved. See you all next month.
See ya.
Bye.